Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC 15 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. We're going to jump straight into today's episode, currently sitting with a rating of just over the 1700s. Yesterday we had a pretty great episode, so if you've not seen that, definitely check it out. We were able to pick up 2 wins after 2 losses in the first episode with the new team that we've been featuring this week, featuring Blaziken, Jellicent, Ferrothorn, of course, built by Chance Alexander, also known as Magic Man Chance on Twitter. So we'll see if we can take the momentum from yesterday's episode and carry it on in today's episode. I do feel like I played a lot better yesterday than I did in the first day, so hopefully that translates over. And I feel like I understand the team better, at least after playing those 2 games yesterday. I played a couple of games off screen as well, just to get some practice in and really understand how the team works. So we're going to jump onto the ladder and look for our first opponent of the day. As always, if you guys enjoy Road to Rank, please show your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd appreciate it. We're going to find a 1720 rated opponent from Japan for our first game of the day. Opponent here is going to be rocking a sand team that looks very familiar to a team you guys should be pretty comfortable knowing at this point. Tyranitar, Excadrill, Salamence, Rotomwash, Sylveon, and Amoonguss. So the Sylveon here really sticks out. Everything else is, part of the sand team that I originally used at Massachusetts Regionals, so let's see how we can beat it. I think Blaziken's actually really good here, just because it can give it a fair amount of trouble, just in general. Blaziken can, after getting that speed boost, outspeed the Tyranitar, knock it out with the superpower, overheat the Amoonguss, HP Ice the Salamence, so that's definitely really good, but it doesn't really like facing against Rotomwash, Sylveon, or Excadrill. So still inclined to lead with Blaziken here, though. And I'm wondering if my opponent has a Fire-type attack on the Salamence, because, if it's like the Salamence that I used at Nationals with Double Edge, Hyper Voice, and Draco Meteor, then, obviously it won't have a Fire-type attack. And if that's the case, Ferrothorn can really run through the team. Regardless, Ferrothorn here is still probably a pretty solid choice. Kangaskhan's not that bad. Double Edge can still knock out Sylveon, which is, the most important thing. Thundurus, I'm inclined not to bring it here because of the Tyranitar and Excadrill combination. Not exactly the best Pokemon to bring there. Landorus here pretty helpful as well, so then the question is, do I want to bring Jellicent? I don't think so, honestly. Jellicent's not that great here. I mean, sure, it can burn the physical type attackers, but it's weak to Giga Drain and Thunderbolt, and, Crunch Slash Assurance from Tyranitar. Salamence does over 50%, so I mean, it can really annoy my opponent, which is the main reason why I bring it, but I think right now I'm leaning towards Blaziken, Kangaskhan, Landorus, and Ferrothorn. Figuring out the order there is the most important thing. But I think I actually like Landorus Ferrothorn here, because Ferrothorn checks everything on my opponent's team other than that Salamence, and with the Salamence I can just get that Intimidate off and just Rock Slide it immediately. I think I'm gonna go Kangaskhan and Blaziken in the back. So Jellicent's a Pokemon I definitely would have still considered bringing here, just because it's so physical based, and I think without a way to effectively one-hit KO it, it could maybe spread a Will-O-Wisp or 2 and then start recovering, but I'd rather go with the offensive end for this team, and we'll see how this goes. Blaziken's going to be really good, but I do need to protect it accordingly, so I'm going to lead with my Scarf Landorus and Rocky Helmet Ferrothorn here against my opponent's Salamence and Tyranitar. So I get the Intimidate off against these 2 physical type attackers. Presumably both of these Pokemon often also like to run special type attacks, so we'll have to see. However, the nice thing here is that Tyranitar is probably Choice Scarfed, actually definitely Choice Scarfed, as we see that his Sandstream activates before the Intimidate. So what that means is I can immediately go for a superpower into that slot to try to pick up a knockout. The question is he going to be smart enough and switch out the Tyranitar, or is he just going to stay in? Because Superpower is an obvious move here. As a result, I could go for a Rock Slide and maybe try to pick up some damage. The question is, do I want to protect with Ferrothorn here, scout out for a Fire type attack on the Salamence, or do I want to just go on the offense? I think the best play might actually be to just protect and Rock Slide, predicting him to switch out. So I could also switch out into my Kangaskhan or Blaziken. Either are alright. Let's see, what would Tyranitar switch out into? Maybe Sylveon? You know what? I'm going to go for the Protect here with Ferrothorn. And, I mean, he really has to switch out the Tyranitar here. But I guess if he doesn't, he could Ice Beam or Ice Punch my Landorus. I think he's going to switch out, so I'm going to go for the Rock Slide. Besides, my Kangaskhan and my Blaziken can deal with it, and he actually doesn't switch out, so I could have just gotten a knockout there with Superpower, which is pretty unfortunate, but good prediction on my opponent's end there. And we'll see whether Salamence chooses to protect here or not. as he's not going to protect here. Ferrothorn's going to go for the protect, so Superpower off into this Tyranitar would have been a bit better, but Rock Slide here still gets good damage on both Pokemon, probably around 30 to 40% on Salamence. Yeah, that Intimidate goes a long way. He does go for the Superpower there onto my Ferrothorn, actually, and I managed to flinch the Salamence, so he does lock himself into Superpower, which is kind of interesting. However, the difficulty lies in the fact that none of my Pokemon can really switch into a Superpower very well, so that kind of stinks. Fortunately, it might have to be Blaziken here. I think Ferrothorn is too important to lose in this matchup when I look at the remainder of my opponent's team. And even though Blaziken's good, I think Ferrothorn's better. So I might actually have to just sacrifice the Blaziken here, but it is what it is. So I'm still wondering what he's carrying on that Tyranitar. He's actually going to switch it out, on the Salamence, excuse me. He's going to bring in Rotom Wash here, which I'm alright with. Now the question is whether Salamence went for a Fire-type attack or whether he went for a Hyper Voice / Double Edge. Either would be, you know, slightly problematic for me here. However, I'm going to be able to get another Rock Slide off against the Salamence. However, I actually missed it, which really stinks because, you know, another one would have knocked it out after that. So, not happy about that. He does have the Fire-type attack, though, so I am able to at least scout that out. Good to confirm that. He's going to go for the Fire Blast onto Blaziken. Not going to knock me out there, but the miss really hurt me, I think. But it is what it is, and, you know, we're just going to have to play accordingly. Blaziken here, however, manages to at least switch in, not for free, but not in as bad as a position as I thought I'd be in. So, let's see. Both of his Pokemon definitely have the potential to knock me out. Presumably he's running Hyper Voice and, you know, just running Hydro Pump on that Rotom. I could switch out, but I think I might just go for the Rock Slide here because he's going to have to hit both the Hyper Voice and the Hydro Pump through the flinches and, you know, connect with Hydro Pump. Even if that's, you know, even if he manages to get both, I get a free switch into my Kangaskhan if he knocks out my Landers. So I'm just going to protect Blaziken here and go for the Rock Slide. I wonder if his Salamence is going to protect here, but regardless, I don't really care. Right now, it's basically saying, okay, if you knock out my Landorus, you let my Kangaskhan come in for free, and then I can just double edge Hidden Power Ice you. And if you don't knock it out, then you're giving me the chances to flinch. I'd actually prefer my Landorus to go down right now, just because, you know, like I mentioned, it's a free switch and back into that Kangaskhan, and it looks like he doesn't have a great way to deal with the Ferrothorn, maybe other than relying on Superpower from Tyranitar. Blaziken here is going to go for the Protect, don't want to take a Hyper Voice. Landers is going to get a Rock Slide, fortunately connects with both of his Pokemon this time around, so, you know, does decent damage to both. He does go for the Hyper Voice here with the Salamence, so it looks like it's basically just fully special. Deals good damage to the Landorus here, and he manages to attack through the Rock Slide, so no flinches on either Pokemon, and Hydro Pump connects with my Landorus, so picks up the knockout into Landorus, which is always a bit scary, but, you know, that's alright here because I get the speed boost with Blaziken, and I get the free switch into my Kangaskhan, so that's exactly what I was actually hoping for right now. It's, you know, always a bit scary when you're playing down 4-3, especially when Blaziken's already taken the amount of damage it has, but, you know, I don't mind that too much. So, right now I'm just trying to set myself up so the, so the Ferrothorn in the back can really clean up the game. So here I could go for the HP Ice onto the Salamence slot. Could also overheat it, predicting him to switch out into something like Excadrill or Amoonguss, and just double edge Rotom. I really wonder whether he's going to switch out here or not. You can also fake out Rotom. Faking it out might actually be a bit better here. Yeah, I'm just going to HP Ice and Mega Evolve and fake out. You know, because he probably has Citrus Berry here, so I'd like to burn that. And he's actually in a really difficult position here, I think, right now. Blaziken and Kangaskhan really dominate the entirety of my opponent's team. He'd have to maybe try to get an Excadrill for free, but I presume that the Excadrill he has in the back has Focus Sash, and Blaziken is going to be able to outspeed it after taking 2 speed boosts. So he is actually going to withdraw the Salamence, which is a great play on his end. I would guess Tyranitar coming in here. Going to be that Tyranitar, so I could have potentially predicted that I'd Superpower the slot. However, I'm alright with that because his Rotom is staying in, so what this means is next turn he's going to have to take a Superpower into that Blaziken slot since my Blaziken, or in the Tyranitar slot since my Blaziken will outspeed him. Looks like he just tried to, you know, pick up a knockout here with Hydro Pump onto my Blaziken, but like I said, you know, I didn't want to risk that Rotom being super defensive and actually surviving a double edge. So this actually puts me in an even better position because now I can go for the double edge and the Superpower next turn with, you know, relative little risk. So HPS actually manages to get a critical hit there. The Life Orb plus Sandstorm damage is, you know, slightly scaring me right now, but at this point, I think I've put myself into a pretty darn good position, especially with that Salamence and Sucker Punch KO range. It really comes down to what my opponent's last Pokemon is, actually. So this next turn, I'm definitely just going to go for the Superpower here onto Tyranitar. But I wonder if he's going to switch out, because that would be a great play. You know, maybe right now, one way he wants to, you know, potentially win the game is let my Blaziken knock itself out through the Life Orb recoil. So part of me actually wants to overheat that slot, predicting an Excadrill or an Amoonguss switch in, but I don't know. I can't really afford taking a Rock Slide, so I'm just going to go on the offense right now, go for the Superpower Double Edge. I think if my opponent's smart here, he's going to switch out, but I need this Blaziken to start, you know, at least pick up a knockout right now. I've set myself up to the point where my opponent doesn't have any great switch-ins, unless his last Pokemon is the Amoonguss. Great switch-out, though. Tyranitar is unfortunately going to switch out, so could have predicted that. However, it's actually going to be Salamence coming back in, which I'm more than okay with, since Superpower is going to pick up the knockout here, and Double Edge should knock out the Rotom Wash as well, so, no, that works out perfectly. I put myself into a position where I could punish any of my opponent's switch outs, so that works out quite nicely. Salamence is going to go down to the Life Orb Superpower. I do take some more Life Orb recoil, but enough that I can hang around for a bit longer. Kangaskhan here also gets the Double Edge off, and that ensures that Rotom should go down as it takes that out in one hit. So we are now in a 3-2 position, and my opponent shouldn't have a great way to beat the Ferrothorn in the back. You know, Sylveon can't really beat me with it. Amoonguss really can't touch Ferrothorn at all, so it's going to come down to what the last Pokemon is here, but with the Tyranitar here being Choice Scarfed and Blaziken being the fastest Pokemon on the field, you know, you definitely got to feel pretty good right now. So Tyranitar comes back out, and I can just Superpower that slot for a free knockout. Looks like my opponent's last Pokemon is going to be that Excadrill, which I'm more than okay with here, since I will be able to outspeed his Tyranitar and just get a Superpower off. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Just going to knock out Tyranitar here, go for that Superpower, and just go for the low kick here onto Excadrill, honestly. So I could potentially win the game this turn. He might have to resort to Rock Slide flinches here, but Blaziken here, being the fastest Pokemon, really helps out. You can see how scary it is playing against Blaziken when you're running the Sand team. That's exactly why when I played Chance at Nationals with my Sand team, I was really scared, because his Blaziken was a huge offensive threat, being able to knock out almost everything. So pick up the knockout there on Tyranitar. He's going to go for the Iron Head here onto Kangaskhan, fishing for that flinch, which is perfectly fine, as he reveals Life Orb, so Overheat wins me the game anyway next turn. However, no flinch, unfortunately for him. Low kick comes out, and wow, it's actually bulky enough to take that. Pretty impressive bulk there from Excadrill, but Excadrill has a pretty high HP stat. So Blaziken, the real MVP in this match, coming through, picking up 2 knockouts and potentially picking up a 3rd one here. You guys can see how good Blaziken can be when it's played correctly, and it all came down to my opponent allowing me to switch it in for free that turn, when I was able to, you know, switch the Ferrothorn out, scouting for that Fire-type attack. I really thought I would have to sacrifice it there to a Superpower and a Hyper Voice, but my opponent ended up making a perhaps questionable play, switching out the Tyranitar there. So even though I didn't go for that Superpower that first turn, it ends up working out perfectly, as we're going to be able to take this first game of the day 3-0. Kangaskhan and Blaziken basically running through my opponent's entire team. But Blaziken, once again, the real MVP of that one, and I knew it would be the most important Pokemon here, but I felt like with Blaziken and Ferrothorn in the back, my chances of winning that one were pretty solid. So you can see how scary it was for me. Imagine me playing at round 5 in day 2 of Nationals against the team that had both of those Pokemon on, and they both really help out a lot in the Sand matchup. So gonna be able to take that one, as that puts us at 17-18. Gonna look for our next game in today's episode. Otherwise, you know, the nice thing about that game was Blaziken was never in a huge, you know, really risky position, because I brought it out in a time where I had already done enough chip damage to everything else. For example, the Rotom Wash, being able to be knocked out by that Kangaskhan was huge, because I didn't have to really risk it trying to knock out the Blaziken. So if you put Blaziken in the right positions, it goes a long way. We're going to find Caleb from Hawaii with a rating of 1667 for our next opponent of the day. Rocking on a bit more unorthodox team here. Gengar, Whimsicott, Amoonguss, Scrafty, Heatran, and Greninja. So the Gengar here is going to be, or the Mega Evolution here is going to be Gengar. Potential Perish Trap, but Whimsicott, Gengar, of course, one of the more annoying duels you could play up against in VGC 15. Otherwise, you know, scary team all around. A Thundurus here can help out a lot because I can taunt, and with taunt, you know, that really can shut him down immediately. But let's see. He can also Encore Disable me, but I think Landorus here is actually really good, especially if he chooses to lead with Whimsicott Gengar. I think Thundurus is going to make an appearance here. Ability to Thunderbolt, Taunt, and Thunder Wave is quite good in this game, I think. So I'm going to go with those two. Kangaskhan's still tempting here to low kick Heatran. All my Pokemon make some sense. Jellicent here, probably not the best, though. He's got 3 potential Pokemon with super effective attacks against it. Shadow Ball from Mega Gengar, Knockoff from Scrafty, Dark Pulse from Greninja, potentially. Blaziken here is still not too bad, though. I'm considering the Blaziken for sure. I think it's worth bringing, especially just to beat the Amoonguss here. And for the last one, it's between Ferrothorn and Kangaskhan. Ferrothorn is honestly pretty solid here. So part of me really wants it. Then again, but Kangaskhan can just double edge everything and low kick. So if I can knock out the Gengar, then Kangaskhan here does pretty well. And Kangaskhan being as strong as it is, I mean, you could always bring it into a match and it can put in some work. So question is, do I want Ferrothorn or do I want Kangaskhan? You know what? I think I'm gonna go with Kangaskhan here. I just like the threat in the Heatran, Scrafty, and Amoonguss a bit more, just because they're all slower. So I'm going to try to use speed to my advantage in this game, and we'll see how it goes. But a Landorus Thundurus here I think is pretty solid. You know, even if he's Mega Gengar, he's going to, I mean, if he's Mega Gengar, which you'd assume he is, he'd have to Mega Evolve, and that gets rid of his Levitate ability, and instead switching it for Shadow Tag. So if that's the case, then I can just Earthquake him immediately. So I'm going to lead Landorus and Thundurus. He is going to go with the Gengar Whimsicott lead, as I thought he might have, which is fine by me here. So, most of the times, that kind of lead is going to want to double protect right from the start. Maybe go for a Tailwind. But, actually, I guess one play he could make here is just Tailwinding and protecting Gengar. But one thing I can do is actually just go for the Earthquake here and taunt the Whimsicott. I actually wonder if my opponent's going to be smart enough not to Mega Evolve, but no, he's actually going to just choose to get the lock-in immediately. So Gengar here is most definitely going to protect. Whimsicott, I think, is going to go for the Tailwind, but because I'm going to go for the Taunt onto it, as he actually protects Whimsicott. So let's see if Gengar also goes for that Protect. Yep, makes perfect sense there. So, I figured if he were to go for the Tailwind play, then I could just taunt him, and then the Whimsicott wouldn't be able to do anything, and Gengar can't knock me out. I guess unless he's carrying Icy Wind, but not sure if that would even knock me out because of the spread damage. So now that he's double protected, Landorus is still the fastest Pokemon, so Earthquake can just knock out that Gengar slot. So I'm just going to go for the EQ, and I'm still going to taunt the Whimsicott, because Whimsicott here, sure, might get the priority attack off, but after that, it's going to be completely shut down. It doesn't really carry offensive attacks, other than maybe sometimes Moonblast, and occasionally, you know, we do see the offensive Whimsicott with, like, Giga Drain, Hidden Power Ice. I believe one of the European players ran that at the National over there, but I don't think we're going to see that from this Whimsicott. So, put my opponent in a pretty awkward position here. A smart play would actually maybe be to withdraw the Whimsicott out into Scrafty, get the Intimidate off, and allow that Gengar to survive the Earthquake lets incoming, but he's in kind of an awkward position here. Gengar is actually going to be the one switching out, so I'm fine with that. Nothing on this Pokemon can actually take an Earthquake. It's going to be that Scrafty, but Scrafty doesn't really pose a huge offensive threat to me right now. So, you know, it's nice being able to force out the Gengar there. He does get the Intimidate off here, which is obviously helpful. Whimsicott here actually goes for the Taunt onto my Thundurus, so he taunts the Taunt, which is kind of funny. So we've seen Taunt, we've seen the Protect, presumably Tailwind, and I would guess Encore with the Whimsicott there. So, not much you can really do with Whimsicott right now. And I could just go switch out into Kangaskhan here, or Blaziken, either are alright. Or I could just stay in with Landorus and go for another Earthquake. But part of me wants to switch it out here. Let's see. I think he's going to Tailwind with the Whimsicott now for sure. And with that being the case, I don't want to walk into a Drain Punch or a Knockoff either. You know what, I'm just going to Earthquake here and Thunderbolt the Scrafty for some damage. So Scrafty is probably going to go for a Fake Out. Actually, no, he's just going to get attacked, which I actually think is a smarter play here. Punish a switch out on the Landorus end. Though Whimsicott, I guess, is going for an offensive attack here. He does go for the Moonblast, so interesting Whimsicott set there with Moonblast, Taunt, and the Protect so far. So I get the Thunderbolt off here against Scrafty. It doesn't knock it out. He goes for the knockoff here onto the Landorus, getting rid of my Choice Scarf, obviously. That's actually a really good play. Perhaps I should have thought about that a bit better, maybe withdrawing out into Kangaskhan, but I was fearing a Drain Punch into that slot. However, what that allows my opponent to do is now he can outspeed me with Whimsicott with this Gengar, which is kind of a problem right now. Let's see, I think Rock Slide will finish the Scrafty off, so I'll go for the Rock Slide. And maybe Thunderbolt? I mean, maybe I should switch out here. Actually, yeah, I should definitely switch out. Let's see. I'll switch out into... the Moonblast there actually makes this match a bit scarier. So we've seen Moonblast, we've seen Protect, we've seen Taunt. So I would guess Encore is his last one. No Tailwind then, maybe? which would be interesting for sure. Having U-turn here, a way to knock out both Pokemon would be really helpful, but not the case, unfortunately. You know what? Actually, I'm just going to go for the Rock Slide and the Thunderbolt here. I want to conserve my Kangaskhan and my the Blaziken in the back. So Scrappy actually goes for the Protect, so he's not Assault Vest, which makes sense. Whimsicott here just goes for another Moonblast here onto the Lander slot this time around. Not going to knock me out there, brings me down to 26 HP. So, you know, hasn't set up a Tailwind at any point in the match yet, which is, once again, just kind of interesting to me. Landers here is going to get the Rock Slide off, but with the Intimidate, probably not going to be enough to knock out the Whimsicott. But, you know what? We'll take that. As the Taunt also wears off from Thundurus, which is great. So now I'm going to go for the Earthquake, since he's in Earthquake KO range. And if I were him, I would knock off Thundurus and Moonblast or Taunt. You know what? Because of that, I'm actually just going to Thunderbolt Scrafty here. Whimsicott here either is going to want to set up or go for a Taunt onto Thundurus. If he goes for the Tailwind, you know, that's fine. I don't know if he has Tailwind. I would actually guess he has Encore. But if he goes for the Moonblast onto Landorus, then I knock out Scrafty, get a free switch on the Kangaskhan, and then I can just, you know, fake out the Whimsicott. But I guess him having Protect makes this match a bit more interesting. But right now I have, you know, pose some offensive pressure. The Whimsicott with Moonblast actually makes it a bit more difficult just because my original plan was to just shut it down, so you can see how much it helps. So he's actually smart enough and withdraws the Scrafty here, which I think is a great play. In comes Amoonguss, so that's not doing anything offensively right now, as Whimsicott here is going to just launch another Moonblast here onto Lander, so good play. You see how much offensive presence this Moonblast is actually carrying right now. So perhaps a Thunderbolt onto the Whimsicott slot would have been a bit better, as obviously Thunderbolt there does nothing to his Amoonguss. So I can bring in Kangaskhan now, just go for the Fake Out and the Taunt, but if he has Encore, then he could Encore me onto that. So I might actually just want to bring out Blaziken and overheat Thunderbolt. Yeah, I like Blaziken here because I can also try to pick up a speed boost and then, you know, threaten that Gengar in the back. So Blaziken's going to come in here. This is kind of a scary position, especially with the super effective Moonblast from Whimsicott. So now we're in a really interesting position because I could go for the Taunt onto Amoonguss, but Whimsicott could taunt my Thundurus and then, like, Spore it as well, though that's kind of a risky play. I think I'm going to protect my Blaziken this turn and taunt the Amoonguss. I don't know, I could overheat Amoonguss and just Thunderbolt Whimsicott here as well. You know what, I'm going to go for that. I'm going to go all in. I don't think Moonblast would knock out Blaziken. But then again, I don't know my Blaziken damage calcs too well. It's a really frail Pokemon, so I might be making a really bad mistake here, but we'll see. I don't know, because if I were in my opponent's position, I would predict the Protect from Blaziken and double up on Thundurus with a Taunt and a Spore. So if my opponent actually makes that play, then I'll fully able to capitalize off it and just pick up 2 knockouts and basically win the game. So this is a really, really big turn for both of us here. I also wonder how offensive that Whimsicott is, because typically they like to invest in speed, of course. So Amoonguss, however, makes a smart play here. He's going to Protect, so nicely done there. Let's see what Whimsicott goes for. Oh, he's going to go for the Taunt. Perfect. So, you know, even though, obviously, I went for the Taunt, I didn't go for the Taunt there, but, you know, he doesn't get that Moonblast off against my Blaziken, which is the most important thing. So I just took out the biggest threat to Blaziken offensively. I mean, sure, he gets Gengar in now, but that's alright. I get the speed boost here, which is great. Taunt on the Amoonguss, you know, or Taunt on the Thundurus is still a good play because it prevents me from Thunder Waving anything, but right now Amoonguss isn't doing very much offensively. I'm thinking maybe bringing Kangaskhan, or Ferrothorn instead of Kangaskhan would have been a slightly better call in this game, just because Kangaskhan doesn't do anything against Mega Gengar, but it was really for the Amoonguss and the Scrafty in the back, so it's still not the worst of calls. This game is going to be really close, though, I think. However, Thundurus hasn't lost his Citrus Berry yet, which is really important, I think, and Amoonguss protected last turn, so I can guarantee hit it for a you know, damage next turn by just overheating that slot. He's going to bring out the Gengar here, though, which is definitely the best Pokemon to bring out right now. So let's see. I think this becomes a really interesting match because I think the best play for my opponent is to actually switch Amoonguss out into Scrafty, taking the overheat, and allowing his Gengar to Shadow Ball knock out Blaziken. That is definitely the play I would make if I were my opponent. So, how can I beat that? Could overheat the Gengar slot here, forcing him to Rage Powder, but then the issue lies in the fact is, you know, what if he just protects with Gengar and Spores me? So that's such a risky play. I think I really want to overheat the Gengar here. and Thunderbolt Amoonguss, predicting the switch in. Or I could double up on Gengar here. Tricky. Could also protect Blaziken, actually, I guess. You know what? I'm gonna double up on Gengar. Let's see if he switches out. Oh, he just goes for the Rage Powder. Okay. I'm honestly okay with that, since Overheat should knock him out. Yep. Okay, and it connects. Had to hold my breath there for a little bit. So Overheat connects with the Amoonguss. Regardless of what Gengar goes here, I think he's going to Shadow Ball the Blaziken. If that's so, then I get a free Thunderbolt against Gengar, and Thunderbolt's probably a 2-hit KO, if not a 3-hit KO. But, you know, I think it would have been a better play for my opponent to withdraw that Amoonguss, but that's what I would have done personally. He actually targets the Thundurus. That's a huge oversight on my opponent's end there. Honestly, maybe he was predicting the Protect from Blaziken, but I don't know. I don't think that was the best play my opponent had. I think at that point in the game, you know that Blaziken is the biggest threat to the Amoonguss, and you know that I have Thundurus and potentially, you know, regardless of who I have in the back, I think Amoonguss deals with it a bit better. Just like playing from my perspective, you know, you should probably assume I have Kangaskhan in the back, since it is still pretty helpful in this match. With the Kangaskhan in the back, at least Amoonguss can redirect attacks away from the Gengar, and you can't really touch Gengar, especially if he has a move like Will-O-Wisp or whatnot. But now I feel really good about my position. So I'm going to just go for the Overheat, or actually, I'd rather just knock out Scrafty. So he's got to fake out one of my 2 Pokemon here, and I'm just gonna, well, let's see. No, I should still protect. Yeah, I'll just protect and Thunderbolt. Let's think. So Scrafty can fake out one of my 2 Pokemon here. Both of his Pokemon have protect. You know, I'll just go for the Overheat onto Gengar and the Thunderbolt onto the Scrafty here. Don't think there's very much my opponent can do at this point in the game. So that last turn definitely caught me off guard. I thought it'd be a... I mean, I don't know. I was playing as safely as possible, and it ended up working out there. The only play that really would have screwed me over is if Gengar protected and Amoonguss went for the Spore, but that's such a risky play, especially when you're facing against a Blaziken. So I think that turn was just, you know, playing as smartly as possible. No fake out coming out from Scrafty here, so I do get the Overheat off. I think that'll knock out Gengar, but yep, picks up the knockout even at -2. So that's how good this mixed Blaziken is, and now you guys can see the real power of Blaziken when it's fully used correctly. So picks up the knockout there against Gengar. Thundurus here gets the Thunderbolt off, and that's going to knock out Scrafty. Might have been a bit better to actually switch my attacks around, going for the Hidden Power Ice onto Scrafty and the Thunderbolt onto Gengar, just because that way it ensures that, you know, if I miss the Overheat, Shadow Ball into Thundurus could potentially knock me out, and then a Drain Punch onto the Blaziken slot. But I think at that point the game was basically won in my favor. So a really fun game there. And today Blaziken once again had a fantastic performance, and I really think that first day I just learned a lot from the 2 losses, and now I'm able to play a bit better with it. But we had some pretty optimal team matchups in today's episode as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. This team is really enjoyable to play with. You know, I was a bit frustrated after the first day since I felt like I wasn't playing as well, but lessons learned, and I'm excited for the remainder of this week. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Leave a like always if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Alright, peace.